6th anniversary open house. Thank you so much for coming. I do want to say this, let everybody know in case you might be uncomfortable, we are filming this. So that you don't want to see yourself on the big screen or on the web. I just wanted to let you know that. So this evening, our theme for this year is Achieving Wellness in the Midst of Turmoil, Tips for Every Age. I thought that was very appropriate because one of the things that we do here at the Armstrong Center, in addition to addressing everyone's emotional, mental, and spiritual health, is we also work with people of all different ages, men, women, all different ethnicities. So that's why we thought that this theme would be particularly appropriate for this evening. So our presenters will talk about, or will give you tips for handling turmoil at different ages. So our first presenter will be our illustrious founder and CEO, Dr. Tanya Armstrong, who will talk about childhood.
Thank you, Dr. Newton. Good afternoon again, everyone. Good evening, rather. I am going to speak for a few moments about issues related to child turmoil. And in the context of a society where we've got political turmoil, we have turmoil with our legal system, we can sometimes see those things most visibly on the news and in the media. But sometimes we ignore the things that are going on at the level of each child. So I want to speak to some of the issues that children are dealing with. And I brought a couple of friends to help me with that. So these young people are going to help demonstrate some of the issues that my own child clients talk with me about. And they're going to do that in their own special way. So I'd like to introduce to you Michaela and Jared. Good evening. All right. What's the matter, Jared? I'm in trouble again. Well, what happened? Well, you know that bully DJ. He started calling me names in class, but the teacher couldn't hear him. I tried to ignore it as long as I could, but when I couldn't take it anymore, I yelled for him to stop. And Mrs. Brookshire said I was interrupting class and disrespecting her. So I got ISS. ISS? Yep, in school suspension. And the next time Ms. Brookshire says it's going to be OSS. My parents are going to kill me. But Jared, it's not your fault. Mrs. Brookshire doesn't believe me. What am I going to do? Well, Jared, I used to have problems like that last year. One girl in my class said I was too fat. Another girl in my class said that my skin was the wrong color. Even my teacher teased me about my hair texture. It used to make me really angry. But I remember you getting into trouble, Michaela. Well, after my teacher kept calling my parents, they took me to the Armstrong Center for Hope. The Armstrong Center for Hope? Yeah, it's the school place. The staff are really cool. And my therapist really listened to me. The more she listened, the more she understood me, and the more she understood me, the more she could help me. Well, isn't that just for girls? Jared, are girls the only people who have problems? Of course not. Everybody has problems. So I was able to talk about my problems and also for you to know that there are male and female therapists there. Well, maybe, but you know what? I found that just talking about my problems just makes me even madder. I just get angry again. But Jared, now I've got skills. Skills? Yeah, skills like learning how to manage my emotions no matter what happens. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm having a really bad day. Step in a puddle and ruin my Converse. Then I go to math class and I got a C on my test. Then I get home and my mom is having a fit just because I forgot to clean the bathroom from last week. I'm feeling really down by the end of that day. But then I remember my therapist said I'm making my special playlists so that I can listen to the music that shifts my mood. So you know what I do next? What? I whip my hair back and forth, I whip my hair back and forth. Girl, you silly. But before I know it, I feel my energy coming back and I've got a smile on my face. Then I'm ready to tackle my homework. Kayla, that is so 2010. You try it, Jared. It works. And guess what I do when I'm really angry? And sometimes somebody wants to be starting something. Like when they get in my face, just like this. You know what I do? You tell them who's boss. I'm trying to stay out of OSS, Jared. I take a minute to remember the things that calm me down. You know what I think and sing? Turn around every now and then. Kayla, you've been watching too many Fiber One commercials. No, seriously though, no OSS. But okay, Jared, maybe you're not into music. You know what else helps? Getting homeschooled. No, you don't have to stay home, but it does help to find a good quiet place. My therapist helped me to learn how to do deep breathing exercises. Hello, Michaela. Breathing is an involuntary reflex. Deep breathing is different, Jared. It's like teaching my body to relax, which helps my emotions to calm down. Here, you try it. Close your eyes and place your hand just above your belly button. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts. Do it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then blow it out slowly. See? The more you repeat it, the better you feel. Kayla, are you sure this isn't hocus pocus? Well, I did used to think it was a little corny when my therapist first mentioned it, but I've tried it and it helps. It helped at my cheerleading tryouts and even during EOGs. It really works. Well, you got anything else in your bag of tricks? Well, I'll give you one more freebie and then, oh my brother, you'll have to get your own therapist. So how about this? When I feel like the world is just spinning out of control, I've learned to get more focused through prayer. Prayer? I thought that was something for Sunday mornings with Grandma. Jared, prayer is one of the most powerful tools we have for creating change in ourselves and our situations. It helps me remember that the God who created me is also the God who gave me a purpose. Once I remember my purpose, I can pursue it, and when I pray, I get more strength, I get more understanding, and I get more resources, all from the God who created me. You should try it. But I don't know how to pray like those ministers at my church. Prayer is just simple conversation with God, just like we're talking now. I guess you're right. Music, deep breathing, prayer, they all sound like great tools for life. See you later. Wait, Jared, where are you going? Well, most people come to Jared, but Jared's going to the Armstrong Center for Hope.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Dr. Armstrong in her presentation? I know some of this stuff. I wish I could know what you
Four
Yes.
through, yes, and they come and they're really activated. And they come into the sanctuary and so what is a way to welcome them. You know, sometimes our response is to shh, 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 and you know, and to become, you know, harsh. And what any idea? What could we do instead? There are about 4 of us that are there. So, you know.
So a few things that just come to mind right offhand is that when you have a large number of children in a sanctuary space, or in any space for that matter, then you want to think about introducing a ritual, some kind of ritual that they will learn quickly, but that you use over time to signal that this is a quiet time, this is time for settling down. Sometimes lowering the lights can be a way to do that, having them perhaps sit in a circle facing each other, understanding that, you know, here's a time when we're going to share with each other, and we're excited about that, so now we want to listen. Dropping your voice as an authority figure rather than yelling, you go in the opposite direction. And then since it sounds like you have some group leaders, you might want to think about, after getting them settled in, if it's feasible, given the age range, to break into some smaller groups and to have each person just have a smaller number of children to engage. Those would be a few things to try. And certainly some of these exercises, you can do some of the very things that we talked about.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We're going to move on to Melissa Teta and Natalie Nicole. They're going to talk about tips in the midst of turmoil during adolescence.
Well, I was going to say, rather than starting off with tips, what we thought we'd do is a little demonstration of what can go on in homes and some of the things that come in to the Armstrong Center as we're working with kids. So we're just going to give you a little demonstration here.
How was practice?
It was great, except that there were some pictures that one of the girls took of Kimberly, and they weren't such great pictures, and we were afraid to let the coach know, because if the coach finds out, we're in trouble.
Well, honey, I think you should take the leadership role and tell coach. Or, you know what, I'll just email her myself.
That's why I'm not telling you anything, because I don't want you to email anybody. I don't want you, I got this, Mom, I'm old enough to take care of this myself.
Well, I'm just trying to help.
But you gotta let me do this. If you get all in this, you'll make it worse.
Well, I will trust you when you show me you can be trusted. This weekend.
What's that supposed to mean, Mom?
This
That's why I
weekend?
don't tell you anything. That's what I mean.
Well, I don't trust you because you didn't clean your room this weekend, the things that you did this weekend. I just don't trust you.
Whatever.
Okay, well, whatever. I'll just take your phone. How about that?
Well, you always wanna take my phone. I didn't do anything. I came and I told you, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
But I'm your mother, and you should listen to what I say.
I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong. I just shared something with you.
Yeah, but I told you that I want to help, so let me help.
I can do this. I'm old enough. I don't need
If you were old enough, you would have finished your own. Okay. All right, so does this sound familiar? Does this look familiar? What about it? What about it sounds familiar to you? Those who have survived adolescence.
I'll say neither party feeling as though they've been heard at the end of the exchange.
Anybody seems as if they've been heard. Anything else? What about the parent taking the initiative to call or contact the coach? Is that something that as parents that we try to do to fix something? And I know we do it in early childhood, but now the 15 or 16-year-old, do we tend to do that? Try to overstep and fix things?
And if anybody has done that, how has the team responded?
You're gonna have some rebellion.
You're gonna have some pushback. Whether or not you're thinking that you are helping the team, you're still not allowing them to make those decisions. And it seems as if you're not trusting their judgment, and so you get the pushback because of that. So what are some ways that the parent could have handled this instead of taking the initiative to make those decisions for the team?
Get a commitment from your child that they will follow through with someone 'cause I've been in a situation where I'll say, I'll do it, and they'll say, okay, and then there's something, well, I'll handle it. And depending on what it is, I say, okay, well, I'll back off, let you handle it, you know. So you guys gotta weigh it, but if it's something serious enough, make them make a commitment that they will, and get that feedback that they will try to handle it themselves, and then follow up to see if they did without maybe interfering.
So we're going to show you an alternative way to handle the situation. Hey honey, tell me about practice.
Well, practice was good today, except that, Kimberly was taking some pictures that I know the coach is gonna be very upset about.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a difficult situation.
Yeah, and I'm not sure quite what to do about it. I know if coach sees it, we're just in trouble.
It sounds like you're concerned about the situation. Let me know how I can help.
I think what I'm gonna do is maybe, go to the coach on my own and talk to the coach.
Good for you. That sounds like a great idea. You are very responsible.
Okay, I'll let you know, thank you.
Okay, yes, I'm here. And what was different during that exchange than the first exchange?
You showed her that you trusted her judgment.
Yes, yes.
Well, the dynamic of the room cleaning didn't get into the conversation.
The parent listened first before offering any advice.
The parent listened. The child, the teenager wants to be respected, just as if anyone wants to be respected. So the parent now looks at the teen as another person, not just my child, but this is a person sitting in front of me who wants to be heard, who wants to be trusted, and who wants my respect. So the parent allowed the child, the teenagers, to have the autonomy to make those decisions. And it came out a little better than the first encounter.
Because we all know that adolescence can be a very turbulent time. Kids are changing and growing. The prefrontal cortex part of the brain hasn't fully developed, so they tend to react more with emotions, while we as adults have to stay in that, prefrontal cortex working and stay calm when we're dealing with them. It's not always easy, right? Because they know how to push our buttons. I have a 16-year-old, but we have to, model for them the appropriate responses. Any other thoughts?
Well, one of the things that we were having a conversation earlier, and what was shared, it puts a different perspective on things that now adolescence has extended to now 24, 21, 24 is considered, considered what, emerging adolescence. So it puts a different spin or a different perspective when you think someone is 21 and is supposed to act like an adult and make adult decisions, but in reality, they're really not quite there yet. So learning how gives you a different perspective on what adolescence really looks like. And 21 is not necessarily, they're an adult in terms of legal, in terms of the law and things that they can do, but in terms of making those decisions. So sometimes we have to mentor, that mentoring lasts a little longer, as you're trying to help them navigate.
I think it's necessary to find places where you can encourage the child, make the child think you're coming along well.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
very proud of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And what you're thinking
Absolutely.
about that. Because sometimes they do have ideas that we don't have.
That's
They have
right.
insight, because it's a different world.
It's a different world, that's right.
With my granddaughter, she's a little girl, I'm an old guy. But I can talk to her, she listens pretty well. But she absolutely wants to be right. She
Yes.
wants to have ideas, she wants to be thought of as a thinking person at 12.
Yeah, that
And what a difference it makes when you do build that relationship, because even when you hit those turbulent times, kids are more apt to listen. I noticed I've been working with some adolescents, and we have good relationship. We use a lot of humor and things like that, and so when parents do come in and the parents are upset about something the adolescence is hearing and seeing this, they are more likely to be able to calm down and listen to me say the same thing the parent said, but can hear it from me because we have that relationship. So just
Yeah, I agree. And another thing is that as parents, we like to lecture, and that could be a communication blocker. Sometimes the teenager just wants to vent, and then after they vent, a lot of parents go into the morality of things, and we teach these long lessons, and they shut down because they don't want that at the time. So learning how to communicate with your teen and what he or she wants at that time and needs. So maybe you can lecture later and give them the whole morality speech, but at that time, they just want someone to listen. And so in therapy, they have the opportunity to be heard without bringing up something they did 5 years ago and to show how irresponsible they are. They just have the opportunity. So in fact, I think that's why a lot of adolescents enjoy coming to therapy.
Any other comments? Thank you. So now we're going to have Wayne Graves talk a little bit about turmoil in mid-adulthood.
As I listen to adolescence, it just continues to display that role when we're talking about turmoil, dealing with children during middle adulthood is definitely an area that can definitely be labeled as turmoil, trying to figure out what their needs are and not being overbearing and just managing that. But could you think of any other examples of turmoil during middle adulthood that you can share? What areas when we're thinking of middle adulthood, what areas do you, can you identify that you can possibly experience turmoil?
Would you give the age range?
Age range, middle adulthood, 40 to 60. Death of a loved one.
The illness of a parent.
Yes.
Broken relationships and broken trusts.
Yes.
Divorce.
I think becoming caregivers of your parents.
Yes. Yes.
A health diagnosis.
Yes. Absolutely.
Children leaving home.
Yes.
children coming back.
Give her 5 stars.
And now, parenting can start later, so you can definitely have some younger children at home as well. So, what about work? If there's a change in career or advancement in career, or whether you're satisfied in your career, that's definitely another aspect to consider during middle adulthood. And so when I, was thinking about the clients that I work with, and when I was thinking about the different changes and the transitions that happen during middle adulthood, one word came to me, which was the opposite of turmoil, which is peace.
Mm-hmm.
And, when working with this age group and really looking at all of the different factors that you've identified, and some happening simultaneously, there is that desire and longing for peace. And when I looked up peace in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, there was a definition that just captured me, and it was the absence of mental anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just beautiful. I was just like, yes! And so as we, think about and ponder about that absence of mental anxiety, I developed a acronym to remind us to incorporate and be mindful of peace and achieving peace in our daily schedules. And so peace, P stands for powering up. And that's making sure that we are tapping into our higher power, that we're engaging in practices that's going to rejuvenate us, that's going to renew us, that's going to recharge us, Because when we're talking about turmoil, we're talking about taxing, drain. And so it's important that we are incorporating strategies into our schedules that's going to recharge us. And then there's E, enjoying life. And it's making sure that we're making time for pleasure, that we are really fitting that in, because we can be just so overwhelmed and, you know, consumed with what we are going through that we don't enjoy life, that we don't, you know, make time for things that we enjoy and the people we enjoy, and, you know, and so it's important that we are carving that time out, that we are incorporating enjoyable, pleasurable moments into our schedule. And then it's A, affirm yourself. And so during the period of turmoil, you know, there's the fears, there's the anxieties, there's the, you know, negativity at times. And so it's important that we are speaking positively, that we're believing in our ability to succeed, that we are stating to ourselves that we can do it, that we can overcome. And so it's important that we have that built in, those affirmations. I do have them as well. You can pass that out. And then C is caring for our needs. Sometimes we are so overwhelmed with caring for others and we're neglecting ourselves. And so being mindful of what our needs are, whether that is physical, emotional, social, spiritual, making sure that we are recognizing when we need help and asking for help. And so it's really paying attention to what our needs are and making sure that we are taking care of those. And then the last E is to embrace challenge and change. It's a part of life. And so it's beginning to look at it from a different perspective and not always looking at it as a bad thing or a negative thing, and to really view it as a time of opportunity, a time of growth, in addition to finding meaning out of those challenges and changes. And so if you flip to the back, you know, really committing to a peace plan, where giving the turmoils, the factors that are affected in our lives, it's important that we are committing ourselves to incorporating and creating those opportunities for peace into our schedules. And so on the back of the card is for you in your time, your quiet time, to begin to ask yourself these questions, and then what are you going to do to implement it? So once you've explored those different areas as it relates to peace, then put a plan in place to begin to implement those areas in your life. And, you know, when I was in grad school, one of the things that was given to me, it was a gift, because as a social worker, you know, we take on the problems of everyone and we think we can solve all of them. And so one of the gifts that was given to me was a prayer, and it was a prayer by a theologian in Massachusetts, and I'm going to read the prayer, and I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but it's by Reinhold Niebuhr, and it's a very familiar prayer, and it's the Serenity Prayer. And I changed the word serenity to peace. And so listen as I read the prayer to you. Lord, grant us the peace to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And as you are on your quest to incorporate peace into your daily lives, and again, while I'm speaking to middle adults, it can be incorporated into all of our lives, in finding those ways to ensure that we are finding or creating moments of peace to help us through those turbulent situations. Thank you. Any
Questions, comments?
Can we use this?
Yes, it's yours to have.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely keep it. I have extras.
Gives a lot of positive.
Mhm.
So much. Healthy Wellness in the Midst of Turmoil. And we've reached the goal seniors is Mr. Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you. This is wonderful because it actually moves into, I have to say, because this is a lifelong plan. But first, I want to thank you for coming and being here with us. And I also want to thank the Armstrong Center for Hope for giving me this opportunity to share with you. And in fact, to me, it's an honor to be here surrounded by professionals of the profession. I'm an intern, okay? Yes, I'm a retired electrical engineer, but you know, that was another life. Since October 2013, when my 90-year-old mom passed away, I started learning about the special needs of the Golden Age people. We like to call ourselves senior citizens, especially when the discounts come. But 3 years is not a long time, so I haven't learned hardly enough or as much as I need to learn. I'm still learning. But I have learned a few facts, and you don't have to remember this. I have handouts of everything I'm saying here, so if you'd like to take a copy with you, you're welcome. But senior citizens are increasing in numbers in terms of population density percentages. They're also living longer due to lower hardship and better medical services. Now those two should have a happy emoji. And the next three, not so happy. There is less appreciation for the wisdom and usefulness of the senior citizens. There is also increasing isolation from family members that are trying to keep pace with fast life. And finally, increasing medical services cost and reduced access to senior citizen facilities. So I also want to share with you that the situation is like my old daddy used to say, it's not the age, it's the mileage. And but we need to understand that a senior citizen's body, okay, has three things. It's more limited in mobility, has less strength and flexibility, and is dealing with increasing health problems. So, but it is difficult for the younger generation and also for the health services provider that provide to the senior citizens to understand this. So there is a whole industry out there that I discovered, and they're actually manufacturing, designing, they call it age simulation suits. What? Age simulation suits. And I have a picture of a really sophisticated one here in case you want to see it. But they vary from a few $100s to several $1,000s, depending on the technology and sophistication. But basically, this suit here is supposed to simulate hearing impairments, mobility challenges, arthritis, vision disorders, and muscle loss. You know, so it's just, you know, a few of the things that it does. So it's basically to train people to understand, well, you put this suit on and then you'll know. When you walk through that door and you're trying to, you know, get across and you're walking with a cane and you can't hardly move and that stuff, yeah, it usually gives you a different perspective as to, you know, if you're serving a drink or trying to actually drink your coffee, that kind of thing, with this suit on. Yeah, anyway, there are plenty of videos on YouTube to watch. But what I want to share with you about certain tips is actually 6 things that we need to consider as health services providers, as family members who care for the elderly, or as aging people, because you know we're all getting it. Oh, you know, I had a birthday last week. There are 6 things, and one of them is social activity. Family, church, friends, volunteering, social activity. Stay active socially. Second one, proper nutrition. You need to eat the right kinds of foods. You can't eat that fried chicken so much anymore. Once a week is okay, and the proportions of it, you know, and also the beverages. You have to, you know, watch out what you drink and how much. Proper medication and supplements. Yeah. Physical activity, dancing, yoga, tai chi, walking, things like that. Mental activity, reading, whether it's writing, painting, singing, any kind of thing that will exercise your mind. And finally, spiritual activities, prayer, meditation, helping others even. So if you keep a lookout for those 6 factors, then you know, you're bound to be a healthier senior citizen. I also want to share with you that in Durham we have something that's called, I don't want to say it wrong, it's called the Durham Center for Senior Living. I am a member, yeah, and it's free, but it's like a great club. You go over there and you can play cards, you can play dominoes, you can do tai chi. They have so many activities, and I brought, I think that they just published, and you can get this downloaded from their website, a file. But it's a resource directory. It has just about everything that a senior citizen might need, you know, addresses, phone numbers. And every month they print out a newsletter with their program. This is the August program, so, but you know, it gives you an idea of, you know, the activities that are going on a weekly basis. I'm just gonna read a couple. Easy Tai Chi, beginning yoga, ceramics open studio, impact aerobics, Sudoku. Yeah. They also have, I forgot to say, not bowling, but they have a theater where they play movies, and they have a couple of pool tables. Yeah. They used to have a Wii. I don't think it's working anymore, but anyway, watercolor painting, ping pong, stitchery club. They also have meetings, and they assist with medications. So it's a great resource. So I do have on the handouts that their address and their phone number and everything. So, and the 6 factors for a healthier living.
The Durham Center for Senior Living, is it open only to Durham residents? Durham County?
Durham County. Well, it's open for everybody, but you can only be a member if you are, find a friend in Durham.
What is the age when you have to be at least?
55.
I agree with you. That's not old at all.
Yeah, that's way.
They also have special events. They just had a gala where they celebrated their 10th anniversary.
My wife teaches a quilting class.
Oh! They have a piano. Sometimes I go play the guitars.
You guys trying to piano?
And I also do a call reassurance on Fridays, volunteer, but I call sick and shut in, list of people that I call. And some of them are younger than I am.
What is it that he said? It's not the years, it's the mileage. The years with the mileage.
That's what I've been trying to tell people. Calling me old. Four. 4 and 2. 4 score and 2. But you know, when you lose your mate, it's kind of hard to get started into something, into those things that occupy you. And I tell you the truth, at the beginning, you know, you kind of need a person, somebody that bring you into a new life, a new world. It is, it's quite difficult, but you really are trying to do things to keep you from being lonely. I was told once that not to think about being lonely, just think about being alone. Well, that didn't quite work because we can all want to be alone at times. Yeah, but nobody wants to be alone. There's a real difference between the two. And some people, they try to help, you know, and sometimes that little bridge, it's hard to get people across that bridge because I got some help to get across that bridge. It was just amazing. But I got it through my church. In a church, you know, you have a whole group of people who are like-minded. And I think that almost anything that you really need, if you prepare yourself, and things like this help to prepare you, but you can find that person or persons that can help you to bridge that gap so that you go for these things. Because all this is really good. But it's a lot of, it takes something to get you started. And some of my friends wouldn't let me sit still.
That's good. That's very good.
I do have a question about hopelessness. I work with elderly women in particular who have gotten into trouble with alcohol, and so, you know, and there's this huge overriding sense of hopelessness, uselessness. You know, these are women in their early 70s, and it's going in. Any ideas? In addition to, there are some mobility issues as well. Transportation is a problem. With the alcohol have come some serious falls, so some injuries. And so, again, yes, it's the mileage, as you said. And they're not church people, which is unfortunate, so I think. Yeah, as a therapist, I'm their only friend. Children living far away. So,
Well, alcohol is actually the worst thing that this person or people could be using because they're self-medicating. They're just basically trying to cope.
That's right.
But that it should be the starting point. I don't know.
Is to stop the alcohol, which is what I do.
Yeah, but how?
Right. What do you replace that with? Because you know what? That alcohol is their best friend, and it works, and for a while. But you're right. It's so anyway. So then, oh man, and these are.
I wonder about group activities, whether you can bring your folks together if they all agree to do some group something to sort of bond with each other and have other people in a similar situation.
Yeah,
Naturally
that's a great idea.
like groups.
That's
Like
it.
belonging
Yeah.
to something. And,
Yeah.
You know, when you get a certain age and you lose your partner, all those years, it's hard to find a place. But that's where the church comes in and really helps because you belong somewhere.
Sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes for some, it has to be built.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like with you, creativity and usefulness and community. So for some, the issue will be helping them to build and develop a sense of community, because
Yeah.
we need that at all ages.
Yes, yes.
Any other comments?
I have a question. You spoke about providing services to that population, and I wonder, so often teenagers and children in general therapy is pressed upon them, and so my question is, how big of an issue is the buy-in to the process? Because it's just my thought. I know. Please help me if I'm incorrect, but it's always my thought that if you're not wanting to do something, then it's hard for you to be receptive of anything that you might be able to learn. So, is that a barrier? Is that a true barrier to treatment? And if it is, how is it overcome?
My word for that would be relationship, because I have a lot of teens that have come in, parents are bringing them in, they're resistant at first, we talk all together, then you sort of set the boundaries of what confidentiality is, you let the teen know this is your session, and the parent knows this is the teen session. Then the parent goes out, and all of a sudden you have a team that is willing to talk because you are that listener, that neutral listener.
Safe and confidential. And in addition to relationship, which the literature shows is the strongest contributor to a positive outcome, is also the young person's ability, or any age really, the ability to see the success of what you're talking about. So I was inspired to share that puppet show, thinking about something that a 12-year-old boy, one of my clients, shared with me. We had been building his emotional toolkit for many, many months, and we talked about it, and then we kind of moved on to some different topics, and I really didn't know how much of it he had absorbed, but probably about a year later, he came in out of the blue, and he said, Dr. Armstrong, that muscle relaxation really works. And I was just like, number one, he remembered it, number two, he used it, and number three, it worked, and now he's telling his friends about it? Wow. So I think that also contributes to a young person being able to appreciate that there's some value here that I can even share with my friends, and so now he sends his friends to come see me.
Thank you.
And I would even add, I actually acknowledge their resistance. Like, I acknowledge that they may not want to be here. And I take some time to get to know him or her. I had one with a girl I think about. We took some time to get to know each other. So I didn't push therapy, I didn't impose it upon her, and I allowed her just to kind of talk about some things that interest her. She liked animals, and so I allowed her to bring her little bunny. And so that was her safe tool. And so as long as she was stroking the bunny, she was open to talk. And maybe about 5 sessions later, she mentioned to me, she said, I like you better than the other one, because you allowed me to say things at a pace that I felt comfortable. And I didn't realize that. I was like, okay, yeah, because I want you to feel comfortable, because I know at least that's a great start, and then everything else will be steady. Than me coming in and starting sessions and she's not ready, and she'll shut down, because the first session she was like that. My mom wanted me to come here. I don't know why I'm here, and I acknowledged it because it's common.
I have a question, and I think you may have kind of already answered it in terms of relationship. But just listening to you all, I can gain the sense that this is a bit of a paradigm shift, and from the standpoint of what many of us, as whether we're parents or church leaders or counselors, may view as a loss of control in dealing with children, teenagers, and what have you. And so my question is, as we're establishing this rapport and gaining trust, how do we determine when is the right time to begin to induce the therapy or the morality session or whatever that may be? How are you able to gauge that and decipher our boundaries as adults versus children.
So if I'm hearing your question correctly, you're asking about how do you identify the boundary after which you don't maintain respect, you don't have any ability to speak as an authority figure. Is that what you're asking about?
Well, I know if you're, I guess my question is, when you take the time to gain trust and build the rapport, at what point, I guess you kind of learn over time, but when do you know when to say, okay, I feel like this is a good time for me to, say what I need to say that I feel is going to help, this person, at that time. Because like you said, the natural reaction for most adults or parents is to try to teach or lecture. And so it can, at times it can feel unnatural and maybe even uncomfortable, to just sit back and listen and let them say whatever they have to say, even if we in our minds already have an answer for what they have to say. At what point do we, after we've used restraint in the conversation or during our meetings, at what point is the right time to, I guess, share what we feel is helpful to them?
My thought would be about gauging the trust that you've developed in the relationship. And we are here representing the field of mental health, but let's be clear that this is not just an issue of what therapists have to do. Parents have to do it, and couples have to do it, and bosses have to do it. So we all have to gauge how much trust do I have with this person. Because if the wall is up, it doesn't matter what I say, my lips are just moving, nothing is being processed. When that wall is down, then you can say what you need to say. But usually, as we gain wisdom, we figure out that what we have to say is probably pretty succinct. It doesn't have to last for 43 minutes. And it can be said in a really gentle way that maximizes the ability of it being received. And some of that is just a dance that you figure out in every relationship you have. This person's personality is different from the other, and background, and all those factors have to go into that equation. But I'd say just keeping an eye out for the trust. And sometimes that's visceral. You just kind of feel you have a good trusting relationship with somebody.
And then you can also, help them to problem solve, in terms of if you really are feeling a certain way about, something that they stated, you can kind of ask questions to kind of help them. Was that, how did you think that other person responded when you stated that? Or was, is there another way in which you could have, addressed that? Let's think that through, and do you think we would get a different response if you said it this way? Or and then, depending on the relationship, sometimes you can, put it out there, see what the response is. If it's still a little, you just take it back and, process that. I see that you, as a therapist, I see that, that your moods changed or your response changed when I stated that, and talk through that. Again, it's just, that relationship and paying attention and being attuned and letting them know that I'm here for you, and so you can test it if you want to, and then based on the response, you can always then turn it into, I noticed that you felt that, you responded differently when I said that, or your face changed when I mentioned that, what are you thinking, or, and having a conversation about that, because they're still included in the process, and we're still talking about it. And so it's just, as Dr. Armstrong says, you kind of know when you're there, like with my teens, I know when I'm there, and I'll go there, and then, they'll let me know if I'm going too far, and then I'll just pull back and just allow them to have their space and let me know when they're ready. But yeah, you'll know.
Thank you.
You want to say something?
We use that every day. You can get on the telephone and talk to someone, and you have no idea what they're thinking. But if you're talking to them face to face, and over a period of time, then you can read their face. And that tells you more than the words. And so building that trust is what you guys do first of all.
That's right.
That's your biggest tool.
That's right.
Any other comment from someone all the way in the back?
I just want to say congratulations on your 6th anniversary, number one, and, one of the reasons I came here and left my work was for self-care. It was a time to close it down, but I did want to mention, since you mentioned mental health, that I'm a psychiatric nurse, so don't forget the SPMI population, the various amount of people, 1 out of 4 Americans, families, you know, have mental illness, and they're really faced with all these challenges you all already mentioned, coupled with all these other issues that they have.
That's right.
So,
Severe and persistent mental illness population is what she's referring to. Thank you, Janice.
We have a handout for, some tips for
Yeah,
teenagers.
make sure that we, that's a different,
On the book.
oh, right here? Oh, okay.
Just some quick facts and tips when it comes to adolescents.
So as we are giving those handouts, we are going to go ahead and make a shift. As we prepare for that shift, let's congratulate our panelists this evening. Thank you for your wisdom that you shared and the practical tips that we can get away. And now it is prize time. So we know that a few people are still trickling in. We'll allow for a few moments to, number one, make sure that you have a raffle ticket. And if not, we can find you a raffle ticket. And number two, if you'd like to replenish your refreshments, please do so at this time. We're gonna move into our prizes in just a moment.
Oh, they